Alright, I thought I'd try to make a quick video of how I use MIDI to control a couple of the effects on my pedalboard. I'm going to try to make this as short as possible without getting too overboard in how it's done. What I'm doing actually isn't that complicated. It involves using the DMC-8D MIDI controller to send program change messages to the Line 6 M5, the source audio Orbital, Manta, and the Digitech Bass Whammy. You need a source audio hub in order to use the Orbital and Manta with MIDI. Basically, the presets are within the hub, and the hub sends the information to the Manta and the Orbital to change them. You can set up scenes and save it onto the hub, or I find it easier to actually connect it physically to a computer and make new scenes on it, just the ones you would use, and assign those numbers and kind of make a note somewhere of what you have. I only have, I think, 10 or 11 scenes set up on there between those two that I use. I only use about 12 different presets on the M5, 6 or 7 of them regularly. And there's only a few things I use on the Whammy. The Whammy has fixed preset numbers. You have to kind of go through and know where they are, but I'll show you what you could do with the 8D, so you really don't have to. Let's go over what we have on the 8D. As you can see, there are 8 buttons on it. The left 4 buttons correspond to your presets within the bank that you're in. So as you can see now, I am in bank 1. This switch here is it would be bank 1 preset A, B, C, and then D. You have 30 banks on this, which are selected through these 2 buttons. So you can go to 30 there, or you can go all the way back up to this way. You can actually change the amount of banks you have in it. 30 is the maximum. You can limit that down if you really wanted to. These other 2 buttons here, this one corresponds to a favorite preset, which I'll explain how I use that later, and then this one is a tap tempo. The tap tempo only works with the M5. Unfortunately, these 2, the low frequency oscillators, will not work with a tap tempo. They do work with a MIDI clock signal. The 8D does not generate a MIDI clock signal, so that's one of the things I run into. But you can see, if I hit the tap tempo there, you can see the tap changing on the M5. So it's kind of nice, especially when you're using a delay and you want to go live with it and you're just kind of trying to sync up with the rest of the band. It's not very difficult. But you can go over a couple of things I use it for. Like, all right, let's set it to preset 30A, and what you can see on that one is that turns my bass whammy on to the 1 octave up setting in the classic mode, and it actually has the M5 on bypass and the Manta and Orbital on bypass. If I press 30D, that gives me a delay setting on the M5, a filter on the Manta, still within the 1 octave setting up there. So you can see as I'm able to turn multiple pedals on at once by only hitting 1 switch. I have a couple other presets in here. Let's see, this one, that's just nothing on that one and these 2. However, it goes to the octave up and down setting within the chord mode on the Whammy. My 3 dirt pedals right here, the big game pedals, the dark glass, and the idiot box, are not MIDI controlled. I just use them and I can add it in whenever I want. Not 90% of the time. The Vintage Deluxe is on. The blower box comes on when I need a little more of a grindy overdrive sound, more on the distorted side, and then the fuzz is just there for when you want to kick it up an extra level, I guess. Let's go over how I make presets with the DMC. So let me go to a bank I'm not currently using. So if I wanted to make a new preset, you have to enter into what's called scrolling mode within DMC. So you hold this button down here, and now it goes within scrolling mode. And what this does is it turns these 2 switches into MIDI channel 1 up and down. This is MIDI channel 2 up and down. Program change messages up and down. 3 up and down. 4 up and down. Now on MIDI channel 1, I have my source audio pedals. So if I try to get a capture of this, you can see as I go up, and PC change 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It keeps scrolling through the different settings I have. Eventually it stops because there's nothing after that. PC change 0 corresponds to a bypass setting on those 2 pedals. So remember that for later. So we'll just make that, you know, PC change 1 on that one, which is actually a filter setting that emulates the MXR bass envelope filter. Now, on channel 2 is the Bass Whammy. Now, this one's tough to show in the picture here, but as I'm scrolling through, you know, PC changes, numbers, as I'm going down, you can see where it's going through different selector parts of it. You can see where it actually goes into activation mode there, and then at a certain one, it's actually selecting the presets, but in bypass mode. So that's a handy feature. I typically use program change 22 as my bypass setting on the Whammy because that puts me in octave up mode, but with it off. So if I decide I want to do something quick on a song, I can actually turn it on, and I have my 1 octave up and down right there, ready to go. So we use that. MIDI channel 3 on this board isn't used, but MIDI channel 4 controls the M5. Now, the M5 I have preset number 24 set as just a bypass. It's kind of one of the limitations I've run into with the DMC-8D. It will bypass like Eventide pedals and the H9, but and the Strymons. But what happens with these is when it sends out a bypass signal, what those would see as a bypass signal, these don't see it. So I have to kind of work around that. So what we do is we create a patch on there that's just a bypass patch. Same with those two. So MIDI change 0 on them is bypass. MIDI change 20, program change 23 on that one is a bypass. But as I go down through it, you can see it scrolls through my different ones. It's not really picking it up too well. The green color doesn't work with the camera very well, does it? Alright, so there's a plate reverb. So as of right now, I have a plate reverb with the MXR filter on and the bypass 1 octave up setting. Let's go ahead and set that to something activated. We'll go to this one right here, which should be number 60, is the octave up, octave down setting. I do have my bass plugged in, so you can kind of hear that. Actually, I don't. It would help if I turn the volume up, that's all. So we have that. So I can take that setting. Now that I've made this patch that I want to use, I exit out of scrolling mode, and I'm going to save it to 27, let's say A. So I press and hold that one, and it says save. There we go. So 27A has that. Now, if you remember what I spoke about earlier with the bypass numbers, my favorite is always set to a bypass. So no matter where I am, any preset or any bank, this switch is always going to be a bypass for me. So I use that as my clean tone. So that's where I go, and now I have just a normal clean tone. Let's say I want to go back to that patch I just previously made. There it is. You can hear where it kicked on the Whammy, kicked on the filter, and it kicked on the reverb on the M5. So it's there. And then say I want to go to another one that's still active, I can go here. That's the same similar setting but with a delay on it. So that's there. There's multiple different things. I obviously use 120 presets you can use, so your imagination's kind of limitation there. And I guess that's about it. So hopefully this helps a little bit in understanding how you can use MIDI on your pedal board, and it makes things quite a bit easier if you ask me. Thanks.